Right, well, let's return to the breaking news that the police manhunt is underway to find the Epping hotel migrant sex attacker after he was accidentally released from jail. Honestly. Well, let's speak to former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, who joins me now. Peter, I'm feeling an episode of Keystone Cops coming here.
Well, this is what you get when you've got David Lammy as a Justice Minister, Shabana Mahmood as a Home Secretary and a Labour government. It's quite frankly appalling. All those people now who went to the streets of Epping to protest surely have been entirely vindicated, and there will be further protests now because an ineffective criminal justice system has just released a dangerous sex offender back onto the streets where he should be behind bars. It's an utter disgrace.
Well, of course, it's not. I guess it's not really Labour's fault in this respect. And David Lammy is said to be furious about what has happened. So they weren't directly the people who would have stopped this person from escaping. But it is just the mess of it all. How would that happen? I just don't get it.
Well, probably administrative errors. But you've got to remember, and I'm going to challenge you now on whether the Labour government have some responsibility for this. It was Shabana Mahmood as Justice Secretary that started the early release of prisoners. It's her that's pushing a bill forward, which is going to release more prisoners early. And what I suspect happened was this prisoner, who should not have been released, was probably swept up among a batch of prisoners who were being early released. That would be my best guess. So, yes, responsibility does lay with the politicians. It's them who are letting prisoners out early to free up prison space because the system is overcrowded and not fit for purpose. And the whole criminal justice system is in an absolute mess, from policing at the front line to the CPS, to the courts, to the prisons, all the way through to probation. And this is a perfect example today of how Britain is becoming increasingly more dangerous.
I mean, I think when she said early release, she didn't mean that early. And also we need to, some of the blame of this, if we are going to blame people, it has to fall on the fact that the previous government didn't build more prison space or do anything really and left it in a very critical position. But still, there was space for him, and this is purely some sort of administrative error caused by people just not really paying attention. This makes Britain look like a laughingstock, doesn't it?
Regretfully, this once great nation is a laughingstock in so many regards. Dingies pulling up in their hordes, thousands of people illegally flooding into this country. The crime on the streets of Britain increasing every year, becoming more lawless, more dangerous. And I'm afraid this nation is a laughingstock already. And I've got friends who live over the pond in America, and they just shake their heads when I talk to them about what's happening in the UK.
And what message does it send to other migrants, of course? Because if they are arrested, they know they could potentially abscond in such an easy manner. I mean, he's on the loose now as we speak. The
message being sent to migrants is come to the UK. You'll get in. You'll get a free hotel. You'll get free clothing, you'll get free food. In all likelihood, you'll be allowed to stay, and then you'll get benefits. And then you can you can break the law if you want, because so many of them go on to enter the illegal tobacco industry, for example, and other forms of criminality. We've got open border policy, open doors, and it's a shambles.
That's exactly the word that just before you said it, Peter, I knew you were heading there. And I also think it's quite embarrassing, really, because it goes to show that nothing is up to scratch in this country. Because would it have been police officers that would have made the mistake, or would it have been prison guards that have made the mistake? Who would have made this actual physical mistake?
It's an administrative error, I would suspect, within the prison system, as whatever prison he was being held, or perhaps a message that was handed down. But either way, it's just an embarrassment. It's a joke. I used to be so proud to be part of the criminal justice system of this wonderful nation, and now it's just an embarrassment to live here, let alone anything else.
And we pay such high taxes as well, and this is one of many different things that are happening. I mean, we've had a migrant who has, killed somebody with a screwdriver who is about to be sentenced, is found guilty today. It's not that all migrants, illegal migrants are bad. It's just that we don't know who they are when they enter this country, and then we allow them to roam free. And I think that, to me, apart from the fact they've come here easily, illegally, via a small dinghy, but now those ones that are here, does there need to be some sort of change as to how they're treated when they get here, rather than them being allowed to roam free? Because that's why these things are happening.
They need to be stopped from coming here. And if only we had a government with a spine that would ignore international convention and do what they need to do to keep this country safe. So many of these migrants are entering into criminality, whether that be organised crime, sexual crime, whatever it may be. We are importing people into this country who we don't know where they've come from, we don't know their background, we don't know their intentions. It's utter lunacy.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
I don't know where anyone anywhere would allow somebody into their own home, not knowing who the hell they are, and say, hey, stay, have a meal, stay in my house, just sleep in the bed upstairs. Peter Blexley, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's a former Scotland Yard detective. Now joining me in the studio, GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White on this breaking story. So the migrant, you were there at Chelmsford Crown Court whilst he was being sentenced, and he was sentenced. I mean, his sentence was quite a good sentence, I suppose. Some people weren't happy, but at least he was at a decent length of time.
Yeah, listen, at the risk of stealing a phrase from Martin Daubney, this is utterly extraordinary. It really is astonishing what has happened here. Listen, it's not the first time that people have been accidentally released from custody. It happens from time to time under this Labour government or the Conservatives before. To be fair to Labour, it's happened. But to be the individual who had garnered such public attention right across the UK, because this was the man who had committed an offence, found guilty in the magistrates' court of that, who people turned out in their thousands to protest about because of the crimes that he committed and other crimes linked to the Bell Hotel in Epping. It brought disorder on a couple of occasions. It brought a great deal of concern within the community about who was being housed in that particular hotel. And then, as we know, it sparked this wave, fresh wave of protests at asylum-seeking hotels right across the country. You can't overstate how pivotal this individual is to some of the sort of issues and the disorder and the real concern that has been felt across the country in recent months. Here he was, having finally been convicted and jailed. I was at Chelmsford Magistrates Court for his sentence, which was on the 23rd of September. So he only been in jail for a month. The magistrate handed down that 12-month sentence. That was the maximum as a magistrate that he could do without referring it to another court, the Crown Court. He felt that was the appropriate sentence for this individual, knowing that at the 12-month mark, what would happen then is that would kick in the automatic process where the Home Office could begin deportation of a foreign national offender. The Home Office confirmed to us that that indeed was their intention, that they would deport this man, but instead it seems rather than being sent as part of this process to that immigration deportation centre, he's been released from this Category B prison. He's now, as far as we know, on the run. He hasn't, realising, oh, there must be some mistake here, gone in to a local police station to hand himself in. There is an active manhunt underway. And the reason why this is of concern and is worrying is that the judge's own sentencing remarks really portrayed this man as the danger he absolutely was to women and girls. A man who repeatedly offended just days after arriving in this country. A man who really never showed any remorse for the offending that he was then found guilty of. Just, in the judge's words, more sorry for himself. He said that he wanted to go back to Ethiopia, that he didn't realise that the laws in this country were so strict around this issue of assaulting young girls. So he said he was happy to go, but clearly not that happy if he is still out and about in the streets of a UK town or city at the moment. We don't know where he is at this moment in time, and that is what will be worrying the police. Does he have contacts elsewhere that he could manage to move to another location, or is he in that local area in Essex? If he's in the local area in Essex, that's the epicentre of how concerned people were around Epping and around Chelmsford and the like. So, of course, people are going to be very, very concerned at this news tonight.
Do we know where he went missing initially, or are they not prepared to release that? Because, of course, where was he? How, was he? Which prison was he being transferred to, or which centre was he in?
I don't have the name of the prison. It might be there. I'm just not up to speed.
They may not want to release that, though.
No, it was Category B prison, and he was at one point deemed to be an escape risk. However, having said that, apparently the regime that he was being held under wasn't that restrictive. He was allowed his television, he was allowed to mix with other prisoners. And a Category B prison is still secure. This wasn't an issue of him escaping over the prison walls, though. So it's not the security of the prison here. It's one of these administrative errors.
They actually released him.
Yeah, as I say, they do that. And this is a consequence, actually, of a penal system, the criminal justice system, in particular the prison estate, which is in a state of disarray and crisis, where there are too few people managing too many offenders in prison and having to deal with all of the admin around. I'm not making excuses for them. This is a ghastly mistake, and I'm sure whoever was responsible for it is going to be hauled over the coals. No doubt about that at all. But it is a consequence of just the crisis within that prison system, that it is completely overstretched and overcrowded.
Now, I grew up in Chelmsford, so that's my manor, as it were. And I know where that prison is. That's where they filmed Porridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my family live in Chelmsford, actually, as it goes. So it'll be a very worrying time. I'm going to tell them all to lock their doors and don't go out at all, because, I mean, if he is at large, obviously, if you are in Chelmsford, just be very wary, because he's not being caught. He's been out for, a couple of hours already. He was released by accident by someone, which he must have thought his Christmases had all come at once. He did say that he wanted to go back to Ethiopia, and the irony would be that we're trying to stop him from getting out of this country now, because he actually wants to leave. But the other thing is, he is seen as a danger to women.
Yes, but
that is worrying.
No, if he really wanted to leave, he wouldn't just have wandered away when he was accidentally released. He would be part and parcel of the process that would have resulted in the expedited removal of this individual from the country. I should say what we're looking at there are the images of Hadush Kebatu when he was arrested by the police. So he was arrested after a member of the public, a young woman who had tried to help this asylum seeker in Epping, was actually sexually assaulted herself. He spoke to her on the pretense that he wanted help with a CV, and she wanted to do her best by him, obviously. But he put his hand on her thigh. She said she was shocked by that, but just brushed it away. But then still continued to try and help him. She went into a local shop to get a piece of paper and a pen to then come back out and help him with that CV, only to find him then sexually assaulting the young schoolgirl. And it was at that point that she dialed 999 in a hell of a state, understandably, to get the police there as quickly as possible to arrest this man. And he was arrested. On that body-worn video, he's there saying how sorry he was and how regretful he was, but, still denying when he got to court at the end of the day after being charged that he'd done anything wrong at all. It was all a bit of a mistake. He was just being overly friendly, is how it was portrayed. But as I say, the judge really didn't have any sympathy for him whatsoever. And actually, as I say, not just warning that he was a danger to women and girls, but acknowledging the real trauma that had been suffered by both the woman and the 14-year-old girl that he had sexually assaulted, victim impact statements that were heard in court by them. And, it had really impacted, in particular, the teenage girl. And like she said, she doesn't like wearing her school uniform anymore. She was in a school uniform that day and wearing a skirt. And when she gets home, she goes back and she changes into long trousers. She said if she goes out in the local area, she'll only go out if there are friends or family to take her out. She curtails her sort of evenings now to get home, usually with a lift from her mother or a family friend or something. So it has an impact. Of course it does.
Well, of course it does. And now apparently in another report, he was released on expectation that he would be picked up by immigration and enforcement. But it's currently unclear what happened next. So he was actually released specifically to be picked up by enforcement. And this is sort of the state of things, that we've got a very bad communication between the different services within this country. That we see that in child services, we see that across the board. And they say that now, obviously, there's a manhunt. The local MP, Marie Goldman, said in a statement following the accidental release, "I am closely following developments and am in contact with the police and the prison. The police must do everything they can to ensure that this man is returned to custody immediately so that he is deported at once."
Well, it might shock people to learn of the fact that actually a lot of immigration offenders, people that have been caught here illegally in the country, either having overstayed their visa, come into the country illegally through some routes, when they're found, and you would automatically expect, here we've caught an illegal immigrant in the country that they then plan to remove. The last thing you would want to do is release that person knowing that, having escaped into the illegal economy in the past, that they would do it again. But such is the state of the system and the number of people that are there. There's just not enough places in immigration detention for these people. The vast majority are released on bail. Now, foreign national offenders, quite a number of them will then go on to be, especially if they're serious offenders, will go on to be held in an immigration detention centre even after their legitimate release from prison. So what I mean by that is once they've served his sentence. He's not served his sentence, but even some of those, Nana, that have served a prison term and then are going to be deported because they are foreign national offenders still get released on bail on the understanding that trust them that they come back. And of course, as is inevitable with criminal offenders, quite a number of them don't. But this is such a high-profile case. I don't think he was ever meant to be allowed to just go out on his own volition. He will have been supposed to have been picked up by immigration enforcement to be then taken to one of these detention centres, because there's no way that they would, the authorities would have allowed him, given the high-profile nature of who he is, what the judges said about him in terms of the danger that he is to the public. He would not be allowed to wander free. So it is a complete,
Yeah,
I won't swear.
I saw the words and I just didn't say them. I'm sure the viewers and listeners are thinking the same thing. The MP also said that once the manhunt is over, there must be a full, rapid public inquiry into how this happened. This is utterly unacceptable and has potentially put my constituents in danger. I expect answers from the prison service. That's the local MP, Marie Goldman. The thing that worries me is the only reason that we know all about this is because this was a very high-profile case, which you pointed out earlier. But I'm wondering how many other of these migrants have escaped in this manner, because obviously the spotlight is on this particular character. It's been a high-profile case and trial. The people of Epping made a huge song and dance about it, which I absolutely agree with them on, which they should have done, and he got a 12-month sentence. The plan was to deport him. Obviously, this is where it's gone wrong, but there will be others who may have had that same thing where they're meant to be deported.
Absolutely.
And they abscond as well, but nobody gets to hear about it.
Well, because they're low level in terms of their priority, the public exposure. You're absolutely right. Listen, some major breaking news that we can bring you now, which is the confirmation, because it was only reports, and we're going off reports in the Sun, the confirmation from the prison service that he has indeed been released in error and he is still at large. This is a statement. We are urgently working with police to return an offender to custody following a release in error at HMP Chelmsford. So confirmation there, Nana, it is Chelmsford prison that he was held in. The statement goes on to say, public protection is our top priority, and we have launched an investigation into this incident. So, a very significant breaking news confirmation there that the story that the Sun were reporting is 100% accurate. This man, Hadush Kebatu, was released in error, is still at large. That's a worrying aspect here. Still at large in the community, and they're urgently now trying to trace him.